European Union leaders have agreed to provide Ukraine with a massive $106 billion interest-free loan for the next 2 years. The deal comes as Ukraine faces potential bankruptcy and was set to run out of cash by next spring. The EU originally planned to use $246 billion in frozen Russian assets to fund the loan, but instead will borrow the money on capital markets. Andrij Dobriansky, Director of Communications and Media at the Ukrainian Congress Committee of America, joins us live for more about this deal. Thanks so much for your time.
And thank you for having me.
Why did the EU decide not to use those frozen Russian assets?
It has to do with what the majority of countries could vote for, and it's clear that just like NATO membership for Ukraine 10 years ago, for NATO, what we had in the European Union are certain countries whose parliaments and internal politics isn't for releasing this money because they tend to favor the Russian aggressor. And therefore, what happened was that the European Union turned to a backup plan. So instead of transferring frozen assets, or at least the interest of that frozen assets to Ukraine, what they decided to do is to offer a loan based on the savings of these countries within Europe, like you said, interest-free. And that does make sure that Ukraine can have an active budget in the coming year, until such point that we can have a ceasefire and outside investment can come back in. This is a country, again, that has no tourism, has no outside money coming in, and has been subsisting mostly with the help of its allies.
What does this deal signal to President Putin?
Well, it demonstrates again that when President Putin is going to war, he has countries like North Korea, China, Iran, and as we heard, the Secretary of State, Venezuela, and others. Those are his allies. When Ukraine is forced to defend itself because it has been attacked on its own territory by this foreign aggressor, it has many more people who are willing to help it. What has happened until this point is Russia has been way more aggressive in what it's willing to do, as opposed to the Western allies, who've been slowly doling out additional financial aid and specifically weaponry. At some point, if you want to come to a conclusion, President Trump will have to, and the rest of the West will have to, impose maximum pressure.
U.S. envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner are set to meet Saturday with a top advisor to President Putin in Miami. With territorial concessions still the major sticking point, do you believe the U.S. can realistically nudge both sides towards common ground?
I think what it's become clear is that Ukraine has been willing to work with the United States in any kind of context, whether that was the meeting early in February, in March, signing a minerals deal with them, traveling to Istanbul in May, agreeing numerous times over the past 300 days to a full ceasefire should President Trump demand it. What we've had from the Russian side is continued civilian bombings. I want the viewers to understand that what has happened in Ukraine in November is an exponential increase in civilian casualties from 2024 in the last month of November, which is higher than what happened in 2023. So Russia has only increased civilian attacks upon Ukraine, and 99% of those casualties are on Ukrainian occupied land, not in territory that has been conquered by Russia.
Andrij Dobriansky, Director of Communications and Media at the Ukrainian Congress Committee of America. Thank you.
Thank you.